Before this video starts, if you enjoyed this video, there are many more like it already on the channel, with many more like it to come in the future, so subscribe. I'm trying to hit 125,000 subscribers by the end of the year, so I would really appreciate it. I upload 6 to 7 days a week on this channel, so if you're looking for some consistent basketball talk, this is the place for it. Also, drop a like on this video. It only takes 1 second, and it makes a massive difference. So today I was planning on making a scripted video on Jason Whitlock and dropping that later today. But yesterday the Bulls hired Billy Donovan as the new head coach of the team to replace Jim Boylen. And with me being a Bulls fan, I obviously have to talk about that. So I made it pretty clear who I wanted most in the coaching search, that person being Kenny Atkinson. After that, I really wanted Dave Joerger, and then after that, I was kind of interested in Wes Unseld Jr., who people were talking about on Twitter, who is the assistant coach of the Denver Nuggets. Apparently, he has history with Karnisovas or Karnisova, or however you pronounce that, the new guy who's the president of basketball operations, and apparently they had a good relationship, but apparently not good enough to hire him. But Kenny Atkinson got an interview, and so did Wes Unseld, and apparently so did Billy Donovan. And I was going to say I don't know how to feel in the title, however, Kenny, King of the Fourth Quarter, literally made the exact title that I was planning on titling this. So I'm going to have to title it, The Bulls Hired Billy Donovan, and I'm not happy, which is because I'm generally negative on this move. So first of all, one thing I cannot stand that I've seen from a lot of Bulls fans in rebuttal to saying that Billy Donovan really isn't that good is that he isn't Jim Boylen, which is accurate. The problem with that is that's the lowest possible fucking bar that exists for a coach. So I'm not giving any coach in the league credit for not being Jim Boylen. That's not a high bar whatsoever. We should be shooting for higher than that. I've also seen a lot of people say, hey, Billy Donovan might not be amazing, but he could be stable and, passable. And I would say that's essentially what Fred Hoiberg was, so what was the point of all of this? Billy Donovan has an interesting track record as a head coach because he came into the league as a replacement for Scott Brooks on the OKC Thunder when they had Kevin Durant. And he was supposed to fix the issue that existed with the Thunder with Scott Brooks, which was that they had essentially no offensive system. The system was just give the ball to Kevin Durant and Russell Westbrook. And did Billy Donovan fix that? No, he did not even fucking close. And as a matter of fact, he was arguably worse than Scott Brooks as a head coach. He had no system in place, and he essentially relied upon his star players. Very soon after he became the head coach of the Thunder, Kevin Durant left in free agency, and then it was essentially Russell Westbrook on his own. So what did Billy Donovan do to help Russell Westbrook in this situation? Basically just say, hey, Russ, get triple doubles, and yeah. That's essentially what his offensive system was once more. And when they got Paul George and Carmelo Anthony, and then when it was just Paul George, that didn't really change all that much other than Paul George getting some off-ball screens for three-pointers, which is kind of what you always get with him. And as a result, Billy Donovan did not seem all that creative of a coach, and he seems pretty good defensively. So there is that. He was a good defensive coach in college, apparently, and he had a good defensive scheme with the Oklahoma City Thunder. However, his offense was basic to almost nothing, and that was not great. But here comes this season, and the Oklahoma City Thunder have very low expectations. They trade Russell Westbrook for Chris Paul. They get Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is a young dude, out of the Paul George trade. And basically, they trade their established star players for an aging star player who arguably isn't a star anymore, as well as a younger star-level player. And the Thunder have the same record this year and have a better playoff series versus a better team in the first round than they did in the previous year, losing in 7 games to the Houston Rockets. So now, everyone is singing Billy Donovan's praises. After previous, he was a consensus, and I mean a consensus, bad coach. No one thought Billy Donovan was a good coach until this season. Now, maybe he turned over a new leaf, and that's definitely theoretically possible, so let's look at that hypothetical. So the Oklahoma City Thunder this year had low expectation. First of all, The expectations should have been as low as they were. Really, the reason they were so low is because people didn't think Shai Gilgeous-Alexander was ready to contribute to winning basketball yet, and they didn't think that they thought that Chris Paul was washed at this point. And to be honest, based off of the last season he had in Houston, it was perfectly reasonable to believe that, because he had the worst statistical season since his rookie year. It might have even been worse than his rookie year statistically. And as a result, with him being 35, it made sense to not think he'd be that good. However, he obviously was, and I think James Harden actually reduced Chris Paul's effectiveness, and being in Oklahoma City in a new environment with him used as the leader once more, he was more properly utilized, and it shouldn't have been as shocking as it was to many people that the OKC Thunder were good. As a matter of fact, I thought the Thunder would be bad, but I thought that was because they were going to trade a lot of the players that they had, especially Danilo Gallinari and Steven Adams. And I thought eventually Chris Paul would either be traded or he just wouldn't simply play for them, similar to how Andre Iguodala did. It's not because I didn't think the Thunder had enough talent on their roster to be decent, because obviously, as they proved, they did. I just didn't think this roster would stick together and that they would just run it as what they had. I was wrong about that. Many other people had that expectation for the Thunder team, so that's why they were not slotted to make a playoff spot. Not because people thought Chris Paul just wasn't a good NBA player anymore. They thought he wasn't as good as he used to be, which is still technically accurate, but no one thought he was just fucking completely garbage. And I certainly think people expected Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to average like 15 points a game this season, and he averaged like 19. So, yeah, I don't think people expected, even if they did stick together, for them to be, I think, the 6th seed in the Western Conference. However, I don't think it's fair to say that the Thunder were expected to be garbage and Billy Donovan changed that. I think what made the Thunder good this year was Chris Paul being awesome. Like, statistically, the clutchest player in the league awesome. Leading the Oklahoma City Thunder and their young players awesome. Really getting into the heads of both Shai Gilgeous as well as Dennis Schroeder in terms of their guard play and making them both have the best seasons of their careers. So, I don't really think this was on Billy Donovan. Now, I will say, because the Oklahoma City Thunder had far less dominant offensive personnel, the schemes that they were running was more complex on the offensive end, and I just made a video on why I think complex offensive schemes are very important. So it's nice to see that Donovan is at least somewhat capable of that, at least in comparison to what we thought he was. However, I also just don't think it was anything special, and I think we saw in the playoffs versus the Houston Rockets that even though they played pretty damn well, a lot of that was not because of the coaching, and we saw in the big moments that Billy Donovan was not making the right decision coaching. We saw that inbound play at the end. We saw him put Danilo Gallinari at the free throw line at the end. Horrible mistakes that were very like, what the fuck are you doing the moment it happened? Not hindsight, not, oh, that was clearly a mistake, even though we thought it was fine at the moment. Immediately, everyone was like, what are you doing, Billy Donovan? And it's because of that I am very low on the Bulls signing Billy Donovan. Now, what I will say is Billy Donovan is not a horrible coach. I think he is passable. However, we had a passable head coach in Fred Hoiberg a couple of years ago. I think Billy Donovan's a little bit better, but for all the bullshit that we went through with Jim Boylan and his buffoonery, I feel like I'm right to have expected a little bit better than Billy Donovan. Now, it's possible that he has learned from this season, and he's going to take the way that he utilized some guards that he did in Oklahoma City and bring that over to Chicago with Kobe White and Zach LaVine, and utilize them better as guards. And maybe the Bulls are going to get some more established veteran talent. Maybe they even trade for Chris Paul, as I have suggested in the past, even though I don't know how strongly I feel about that now. And there's also a pretty decent likelihood that the Bulls are going to draft a guard with their 4th overall pick. And at least based on this season, it seemed like Billy Donovan was pretty good at getting guards in good positions to be successful. I don't think he's going to be horrible. I don't think I'm going to be pulling my hair out every 5 seconds watching Bulls games because of the coaching decisions. However, I think this is a higher floor but low ceiling move, and I really think the Bulls could have pulled off a slam dunk here by signing Kenny Atkinson, Dave Yeager, or Wes Unseld Jr. And unfortunately, we didn't get any of those guys. Now, we don't know what happened in those interviews. Maybe those guys were not as interested in the position. Maybe they had a bad interview. But I'm telling you now, I'd have to seriously question what Karnisova is doing, passing up on Kenny Atkinson in favor of Billy Donovan, when Kenny Atkinson showed in the past that he is very good at developing young talent, very good at building a winning culture despite lacking in talent overall on the roster, and making the best of a bad situation. Because right now the Bulls are not in a great situation, and a head coach who can make the best of that would be really damn great. Billy Donovan is just going to not make it worse, and I wanted something more than that. At the end of the day, I'm not that mad, but I really feel like we could have gotten a much better option than Billy Donovan. At the end of the day, it's not Jim Boylan, and that's progress, but it's really 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and I'm getting fucking tired of that. And I'm getting tired of Bulls fans having these low expectations that we should just be okay with an okay coach, when no, it's not really okay. I mean, it is okay, but like, we should be expecting better than okay. So yeah, that's what I think about Billy Donovan being the Bulls' new head coach. I saw a lot of people commenting, I'm sure he's happy. I'm not fucking happy. I don't want to come across as too negative, but I'm also seeing way too much optimism to the point where I think a lot of people are going to get disappointed in the Bulls fan base, so I want to correct that a little bit. So yeah, that's the end of this video. Please be sure to like and subscribe for more NBA content like this, and cue the outro music.